I'm Jeff Schaefer, and this is My Moment.
Jeff Schaefer is a former Major League infielder who was born in Patchogue, New York, where he attended Patchogue Medford High School. On June 8th of the 1981 MLB Draft, the Baltimore Orioles selected Jeff in the 12th round out of the University of Maryland. On April 7th, 1989, he made his Major League debut with the Chicago White Sox and would continue his Major League career with the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland A's over the next 5 years before completing a 14-year professional career. In 2010, Jeff was inducted into the Suffolk County, New York Hall of Fame. Jeff currently resides in Tega Cay, South Carolina, and is married to Amanda Schaefer, father to daughters Tori and Casey, sons Zachary and Dylan, and grandfather to Aiden.
My baseball journey began on the South Shore of Long Island in a town called Patchogue. Played for the North Patchogue Medford Youth Athletic Association. I can remember getting my very first uniform, the very first team I played for, Do Electric, and it's a pretty cool experience because the girl in my class' father owned the electric company called Do Electric, and we were wearing that uniform. Obviously played every year, all the way up until through high school. When I got to high school, I did not become a starter or even a varsity player until my junior year. I was small. I did have skill set, but I was not your prototypical big, strong baseball player at that point. I worked hard through high school, and I was fortunate enough my junior year to become a starting second baseman there. By my senior year, I was an all-league player. From high school on, I spent that next summer playing Connie Mack in the Connie Mack World Series, a team called Port Jeff A's. And the Port Jeff A's were fortunate enough to get through the divisional series in New York State. We beat John Franco and Frank Viola to go out to Farmington, New Mexico. We got out there. We were the first team from the East to win it in 19 years. And it was a pretty special moment. But at that point, on the way home, I kind of figured that my baseball days were over and it was time to move on with a different journey in my life, and ends up being that when I got off the plane, my father had told me that I was going to go to the University of Maryland and I was going to play baseball there. My junior year was an exciting year for us. We led the nation in home runs. We had a great team. We had a phenomenal coach in Jack Jackson, who became a tremendous mentor, and to this day, a great friend, and somebody that we all at Maryland still stay in contact with. It was a big year. I hit 380 something, somewhere up there. I hit more home runs than I ever hit in my life, and I had a very strong defensive year. I could see the Orioles scouts and other scouts coming to the games, and it was exciting. I knew that they had to be there to not just watch me, other guys, but I was a focal point at that point, and it made me feel good. I didn't fold under that pressure. I started to thrive again. A little bit of fear of I don't want to be that guy that somebody's looking at, and I didn't break through. So I did. I had a good year, and that led up to the June draft, and that moment right there for me was exciting because it was almost like a gift. It was something I never ever expected. I was a skinny kid playing high school baseball. I was a skinny kid that stepped on at the University of Maryland. And the dedication, the determination, and the passion just to be as good as I could possibly be was going to give me this opportunity to move on and get a paycheck to play this game. My junior year ended at Maryland, and I headed home to Patchogue and was preparing to play summer ball. I wasn't going to take anything for granted. I had received quite a few letters and was invited to some tryouts, one at Memorial Stadium, where I went out there and I was working out with Al Bumbry at the time, because we were supposed to take batting practice and infield and all that other stuff, but it was a rainy day, so they could only get the guys in the outfield. So I was running around with a veteran player by the name of Al Bumbry, who was just a class act and treated me like I was gold that day, and I was feeling like $1 million. And as we were running off the field, a kid had leaned over the rail and called me over, and my uniform had number 61 on it, and it was a little dingier yellow than everybody else's bright white big league uniforms. But I was wearing a big league uniform, and I was feeling pretty good. And this is all before the draft. This was a pre-draft workout. This kid leans over the rail and he says, number 61, and he calls me over. And I run over there thinking, wow, I'm going to sign my first baseball here. This is a pretty cool experience. When I got there to the rail, the kid asked me why there were 2 bat boys today. So he busted my bubble a little bit and humbled me in that moment. But that pre-draft thing kind of let me know that the Orioles were interested in me. and I had a good chance of being drafted by him. There were other teams that were showing interest, and people were throwing out rounds, anywhere from 3 to 10, which, at that point, everybody wants to go in higher rounds, but I had no idea what the higher rounds meant. I really was naive to this entire professional baseball experience, like what it was going to entail, what the draft was, any of this stuff. I was playing the game because I loved the game, and I just wanted the opportunity to see if my skill set was good enough to take it to the next level. And I waited. We went home, and it was, like I said, a 2-week period before the draft came around. And I was home in Patchogue. We were sitting in the den with my parents, and I was just, hoping that the phone would ring. The first day went by, and we knew it was rounds 1 through 3, and the phone didn't ring. A little bit of disappointment set in, but optimism. At that time, there were tons of rounds, so I kind of felt confident that somewhere along the way this was going to happen. The next day went through, and I think it was 4 through 10. And the third day was the last day of the draft. And now I'm starting to think, okay, I'm going to have to go back and play my senior year in Maryland, which wasn't the worst thing in the world because I was going to go play baseball anyway, and I was playing at a high level, and I just came off a good year, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time in Maryland. So it wasn't a kiss of death by any means. Early that morning, I would say between 10 and 11 o'clock, and my father, obviously we had house phones then, there were no cell phones, so the house phone rang, and I heard my father in the other room talking, and he said, "Jeff, you want to take this phone call?" And the scout, I had 2 scouts, one was Dick Bowie, and the other one was Mike DeLuca, that was from Long Island, and they were on the phone, and they said, "Congratulations, you've just been drafted by the Baltimore Orioles." And it was a huge relief, and it was also a time of amazing excitement because I knew how hard I had worked. I knew what I had come from as far as the physical side of the game. I had no idea that this was going to ever happen. I didn't set out playing this game to be drafted. I set out every day to play this game because I loved the game, and I just wanted to go and compete. And I had a skill set that set me apart from other people. And here I was at this point, on the phone with the Baltimore Orioles, and to this day it gives me goosebumps just to think of that moment when that happened, because it's a dream. And then now at that point, once you are drafted and you're moving on, now your mind starts to race forward again, and now it's how far can I take this? So the work even began, and it became even a more dominant part of my life. The strength and conditioning, and the focus that I had to teach myself and step into an environment where I was going to be amongst the best that were drafted that year. And it was exciting. After I signed my contract, it was a matter of 2 days, so we didn't have much time as a family to celebrate. We had dinner, and that was pretty much the extent of our celebration. I was on a plane to Bluefield, West Virginia, which wasn't a very big plane, so I think there was 4 seats on it when I landed in Bluefield. And it certainly wasn't a jetliner that taking me to a major city, but I was going to Bluefield, West Virginia to play in the rookie league for the Bluefield Orioles. It was the beginning of everything that we had dreamt of. The progression out of Bluefield, I went through that short season, and they actually made me a switch hitter that year, which was interesting. I hit .268, if I remember correctly, and I went to spring training the next year as a switch hitter. That didn't last very long because at the rookie ball level, they get behind, they throw fastballs. At the higher level, they get behind and they throw everything at you that spins and changes speeds. I went to Hagerstown, Maryland, which was, I got the opportunity there to play with Grady Little, who's to this day is a great friend, and was a great inspiration for me because he believed in me as this skinny little kid that could do some things, and he wrote me in the lineup every day. Got off to a rough start, and I was actually batting 100, and I was starting to think, uh-oh, maybe this is over and my career is done. I get a knock about 6:30 in the morning one day, and it's Grady standing outside my door. My father's right behind him in Hagerstown. I'm thinking, no doubt, I've just been released. It didn't even last a full year, and it's time for me to go home. And Grady informed me that he was tired of watching me and that he was sending me to AA. So batting 100 got me promoted to AA. I got here to Charlotte, and it was phenomenal. I mean, Charlotte to me at that point, again, another promotion. You make a team out of spring training, that's one thing. You get promoted during a season, that's something that's pretty special along the way. So I'm moving up the ladder. I think at that point the Orioles had determined, look, we're going to throw this kid in this situation at the AA level. If he can handle it, great, he'll continue to move on. But this is your make or break year at AA, and I stepped in there. I was a starting second baseman and finished the season strong. We had a good club. It was fun. I was in a bigger city, a bigger environment. Not that Charlotte was a mecca at that time, but it was elevated from Bluefield, West Virginia, and Hagerstown, Maryland. The journey didn't seem to be in the wrong direction at that time until I got to spring training the next year, and they decided to send me back to A-ball. And that was a little bit disappointing because I felt I did my job at AA. I actually thought I had a chance to make the AAA team. It didn't work out so well. I went back to Hagerstown, got off to a good start, called me up to AA, finished the season at AA. The next year I was back in Charlotte again, my third year at the AA level at some time, and broke through, got a call up to Rochester, finished the season in Rochester. My final year in the Orioles organization was in Rochester. Had a pretty solid year. I played second base. I had not played any shortstop at all at this point. Primarily my entire life, I was a second baseman. The season ends there. I go home. I'm in my basement and I'm working out, doing deadlifts, bent over rows, and my back goes out. And I'm rushed to the hospital, and I spent 7 days in the hospital in traction. At that point, the Sporting News was pretty much the guideline to information on what transactions took place. And my father brings me a paper and he says, "You need to read this." And in the paper it says, "Jeff Schaefer's been sold to the California Angels for $100. So that was that at that time was disheartening because I felt like I wanted to play with Baltimore. I went to the University of Maryland. It was the organization had tremendous tradition. It was a great system, and I thought that I was on my road to the big leagues. Little did I realize that in front of me was a guy by the name of Cal Ripken. Behind me was a guy by the name of Billy Ripken. So it certainly wasn't going to be Schaefer to Ripken to Murray, or Ripken to Schaefer to Murray. It was going to be Ripken to Murray, and that was fine. The way I always looked at my journey was whatever uniform I wore or whatever level I was ever at, that was my big leagues. So you get over the disappointment of getting sent back down to AA or A-ball or wherever you're moving around from the big leagues down to AAA. You have to approach it the same way. If you love the game, you have a passion for the game, you go about it the same way, regardless of if it's Rochester, New York, Bluefield, West Virginia, or Yankee Stadium. And it's the only way to go about it. So go through the whole process of spring training. It comes down to the end and they're starting to cut guys, and I'm not cut. And it keeps going on and on and on. And I'm starting to feel better. More and more about this situation feels good. We're in the dugout in Sarasota, and Dave Gallagher, who was my roommate the year before in AAA before he got called up, is in the dugout with me. And Jeff Torborg calls me out of the dugout and calls me down the right field line. And that's usually the kiss of death. It's like, "Schaefer, last game, thanks for everything you've done. We'll keep an eye on you. If we need you, we'll come get you." That's what my mindset was walking out there, because I've had so many of these disappointments before. In my heart, I felt like, I earned the right to go now. I get down the line, and the golden words that you want to hear as a player that's never been to the big leagues, and you're coming out of spring training, and you're going to make a team out of spring training, is, "Kid, you're going north." And that means you're getting on a plane and you're flying with the big league team, and you're going there, man. You're going to the big leagues. At the time, my father-in-law was in the stands, and Jeff said to me, "Don't say a word to anybody yet, because we have some guys that we have to let go." Not a problem. Turned around, thumbs up to my father-in-law. I get in the dugout, and I'm like, "Gally, Gally, Gally." And I call Dave Gallagher in, and we go into the bathroom in the dugout, and it's just him and I. And I said, "Gally, I'm going north." So he had already made the team. He was a rookie center fielder the year before, and a rookie all-star center fielder the year before. And we both start jumping around, and we're hugging, and we're like, "Yeah, it's happening, it's happening." And as we're hugging each other, the door opens up, and the hitting coach, Walt Reniak, who's this crusty old school dude, looks at me and goes, "Oh, God," and shuts the door and walks away. So, it was an amazing amazing experience. It was everything I ever thought about, but in reality, it really hadn't happened yet. We actually were flying to Oakland. We were going to open up in Oakland. And when you make the team out of spring training as a non-roster invite, you don't sign your contract in spring training. You don't sign your contract until hours before the first game, because the opportunity for them to make trades, or maybe they have second thoughts and they want to send you back down. So I was feeling good that yeah, we're going north. I'm on this plane with the big leaguers, but I haven't signed a big league contract yet. I'm not a big leaguer 110%. So we get on the plane, and at that time when you flew, you went right onto the tarmac and you went up into the back of the plane, and you never you never went through security. You needed any of that stuff. Well, I had heard the stories of guys getting pulled off the plane. So instead of going to a seat, I went into the bathroom, into the lavatory, and I locked the door. And I was sitting in there, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I'm saying, I'm not coming out of here until this plane's in the air, because if it's in the air, now my chances of signing this contract are even greater. And all of a sudden, over the microphone, Jeff Torborg, the manager, I hear on the PA, I guess he grabbed the flight attendant's microphone and said, "Schaefer, you can come out of the bathroom. This plane will take off with you on it." So I came out. I got a round of ovation. I got a big ovation from the team and everything like that. And I sat down, and we took off, and we flew into Oakland. And we checked into the hotel, and that whole experience, people carrying your luggage, and you're wearing a suit, and you're in a grand hotel. You're not in the Motel 6 down the road, and it's the beds are actually, they don't cave in. They're actually firm beds and good pillows, and it was exciting. But I hadn't signed the contract, so I'm sitting in my room waiting for my room phone to ring, and it getting close to the time that the bus has to leave. It's about 30 minutes before the bus has to leave, and Jack Gould, who was the vice president of the White Sox at the time, called me up to his room, and there was the contract, and I signed that contract, and I ran downstairs and jumped on that bus smiling from ear to ear, and we drove off to the stadium. And I was a big leaguer at this point. I signed that contract. I hadn't played a game yet, but I was a big leaguer. Walked into the clubhouse, and you look around, and at this point, Carlton Fisk was there, Ozzie Guillen, Harold Bain. I'm sitting there in front of my locker, and my jersey number was 15. And they asked me in spring training, if you had a choice of a number, what would it be? And at that point, I said I'd like it to be number 15. Because Thurman Munson was my idol as a Yankee fan growing up, and Thurman was number 15, and he died in a plane crash. And an interesting part about that is him and Carlton Fisk always had these wars between each other. I mean, they had scraps at home plate. They were two tough dudes, and Carlton had come over to me and he said, "Thurman's number, huh?" And it was it's just all these different things. I mean, you can't bottle it up, and you can't just put your finger on one. What everything that a boy dreams of, and my dreams weren't to be in the big leagues. My dreams to play professionally started later in college. But my dreams of playing at the highest level and being able to see if my talents matched players that were the best in the world. Being a smaller guy. Could I get to this level? And it was happening. And to put that jersey on my back, and the hat on, and lace up your cleats, and walk out into a big league stadium, and the butterflies are ripping through your stomach. The nerves are, it's a crazy emotion, because you can't define it. I've never felt anything like that in my life again. It was just. You wanted to cry, because you beat the odds, you grinded it out, you were told no so many times, you didn't accept no, you kept going, and here it was. I could have played one game and died happy. I was a Major League Baseball player. My Major League debut came 2 days after I signed my contract in Oakland. It didn't come as a starter. It didn't come defensively, believe it or not. It came as a pinch hitter. Obviously, I didn't make the big leagues as a hitter. I made it, for my defensive skills, and I got the opportunity to go up and pinch hit. Adrenaline was raging through my body. I felt like I was 6'4", 230 pounds, and I took 3 man hacks off of Eric Klunk, fouled 1 back, fouled 2 back, and off of 2 fastballs, and that was primarily his best pitch. no doubt about it, he's going to come after me with a fastball again, and he throws me a curveball. And strike three. So my major league debut was everything that I expected, except I wasn't supposed to punch out. We move on to Boston, and now, as growing up as a Yankee fan, what greater? I'm going to play in Fenway Park. I get my first major league hit in Fenway Park against the Boston Red Sox. It was a highlight. What better? But I don't get that as in a starting position. I go in actually to pinch run, and we tie the game up, and I pinch hit for all people. Harold Baines, who was one of the best hitters in the American League at that time. And it comes around to my spot in the lineup again, and we've exhausted the lineup, so they have nobody to pinch hit for me. So I get to go ahead and go to the plate, and the pitcher was Rob Murphy, who eventually became a teammate with mine in Seattle. And I get a base hit up the middle, and another highlight, another moment. But I haven't started a game yet. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. We fly into New York after the last game in Boston, and we play on a Friday night, and I don't start. I pinch run. We go into Saturday's game. I don't start, but I go in defensively, and it's pouring rain, and I go in defensively at third base for Kenny Williams that night, and a fight breaks out on the field, and I'm in the middle of it. I get ejected from the game, along with a few other guys on the team. I go back to my hotel room that night thinking, what are you doing, Schaefer? This is crazy. You haven't started a game yet. You're getting pinch run for, you're getting pinch hit for, when your time does come up, when you do get in the games. And what's happening? I'm starting to get nervous. Like, is this, am I going to get a chance to play? So I go out that night with a bunch of friends. We hang out, and it's, I come back, and they come back to the hotel, and I wake up the next morning. I get on the bus, and I'm going to the stadium, like I normally do, with hopes of being in the lineup. Is this going to be my day? I walk in Yankee Stadium, the old clubhouse was very long and narrow. And the rookies were always put in the back of the clubhouse. So, I walked all the way to the back of my locker and started to get dressed. And all of a sudden, here they come. And, guys are coming up to me going, hey, good luck, Schaefer. Go get him, Schaefer. Have a good game, Schaefer. And it dawned on me, I might be in the starting lineup. So I get up, and I have to walk all the way back down to the end of the lineup because they posted the lineup on the back of the door that went in and out to the dugout. And sure enough, starting at short, and batting ninth in the lineup, John Candelaria was on the mound that day for the Yankees, and he was a lefty, so I felt comfortable. I'm not, I'm going to go out there and get my hacks. I'm going to do my thing. I put my uniform on, and it's a different feeling this day because now I'm going to not only get opportunity to start, but my first major league start is going to be in Yankee Stadium, and diehard Yankee fan my whole life. The interesting part about this whole journey that I just took you on is that in spring training, Jeff Torborg, who was our manager with the White Sox, had told me a story when he was with the Los Angeles Dodgers and came up as a rookie. Walter Alston was the manager. Walter Alston did not start Jeff Torborg until they went through 2 sets of series and waited until they got to New York to play against the Mets, because Jeff grew up in New Jersey. He saved that moment for Jeff and his family to enjoy it, to celebrate it. And so, I'm thinking, hey, great story, Jeff. Really cool, man. Glad to hear it. Little did I realize that he had the same plan for me. And my nervousness about not starting was, on his part, calculated. And he saved that day for me in Yankee Stadium. There were 2 busloads that came in. There were probably 170 people to 200 people from my hometown, all sitting in this one little section. I'm taking infield and before the game, and all family and friends are down along the rails, shave, all the support from all these people for all those years, and here they are, about to enjoy that moment with me. That was something that to me was the coolest emotional moment that I had in this game. Getting to the big leagues and making your debut, you wish that for everybody, but to have this done for me by somebody else, for so many people to enjoy, was just, I get emotional now talking about it, because it's something that I wish I could give to somebody else in this game, because that can never be taken away from me, and it can never be taken away from every person that was there in support of me that day. 3 years in Seattle were probably my favorite 3 years in the big leagues. I got to play with some great guys, Hall of Famers now, and Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson. Next wave is going to be Omar Vizquel. I think Edgar Martinez should be an inductee. There was a lot of talent there. There was a lot of youthful energy there, and it was just a fun place to play. And the strike hits in '94 halfway through the season, so we're done. Go home and just think, that the strike is going to end soon. It doesn't. It drags on. Goes into the playoffs, goes into the World Series, and next thing you know, it's the season's over. And at that point, I didn't really realize it, but in my heart, I kind of figured it was, I was 35 years old. It was time, and that was going to be the end of my 14-year professional journey. It was a roller coaster that I would get on again today, and I would ride it every day for the rest of my life if I could. The ups and downs and the ins and outs. The part that was that I cherish the most is that wherever I was at, it was my big leagues, and whatever game I was playing in was going to be the greatest game I ever played in my life. Once my baseball career was over, I stepped away from the game for a few years and went into some different business ventures, but nothing brought the adrenaline or the high that I had experienced being a professional athlete and being in that competitive environment every single day of my life, either training to get better or playing a game to win or whatever it took. And that was missing in my life, and I had to find my way back to the game. And I did it through coaching. I can honestly say, and I feel this way, I think I'm a better coach than I was a player. And I say that because, the journey that I went on was a lot of disappointment that I had to endure. Like I said earlier, I never gave up on what my dreams were or my hopes were or what my beliefs were in myself and my abilities. Sometimes this game isn't always fair. Sometimes it's very fair. I endured more than most, I believe, in terms of being sent up, sent down, signed here, moved here, whatever, pick up, go, whatever it took. Those things right there, the disappointments of, being in the big leagues and told you're getting sent down, being wherever you're getting sent down, or you're being traded, or you're being moved, going through 0 for 21 streaks at the plate, losing 15 straight games, and these things there, they build certain things, and baseball has an amazing way of building character in people, because there is so much disappointment along the way. There is so much failure that you have to learn to endure it, overcome it, and make it feed something that feeds you, that's going to make you better the next day. It weeds out the weak. It weeds out the weak very fast. If you can't endure that, it will take you out. And the game loves nobody. Everybody loves the game. And I've loved the game forever. I didn't care if it loved me back or not. I just wanted to put the uniform on the next day and go out and get after it. Those experiences along the way as a player has allowed me to help the players that I'm coaching these days, not only through a skill set and teaching them how to swing and hit, but more importantly that, how do we deal with these failures? How do we move on to the next level? How do we deal with the disappointment that you're not going to go to a Carolina, you're not going to go to a Clemson, you're going to go somewhere else, but the beauty of it is you're going to get to play every day, you're going to get on the field earlier. So I think these experiences, for lack of a better term, and the guys that have been in the game for a long time, one way or another, you gain a wisdom that, if you love the game, you pass it back on. And that's what it's about. The people that love the game of baseball find a way to give back. The people that just like it or, just use it for their own self-serving, they find ways to take things from the game. So, we've surrounded ourselves. I've always surrounded myself at this level as a coach around the best people that I could possibly find, the people that have the most knowledge, but also the people that are grateful that had these opportunities like myself to play this amazing game. I would give anything to go back and put the uniform on and compete again. But on the other side, I wouldn't change anything that I've been able to do for children, families, friends that helped them move through this amazing experience in the game of baseball. I'm Jeff Schaefer, and that was my moment.